you say something in opposition, you can chuck rocks, you can be a bit more forthright. Look at Nigel Farage. You know, look at the way Kemi Bednach now and what the Tories are saying. When they were in government, they were saying almost the opposite.
He drags everyone else down with him. The more people debase themselves, parroting his absurd defences.
The problem, I think, that Reeves and co. didn't really realise to begin with, actually, you can move markets and you can move confidence and you can move trust very, very, very quickly when you are the government.
The more the public will believe all politicians are the same, all as bad as each other, and that suits this Prime Minister just fine.
Picture this: a quiet office in Durham, a politician sipping beer, and a nation in lockdown. Fast forward to today, and that same politician, Sir Keir Starmer, finds himself at the center of a reopened police investigation. But this is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As we peel back the layers of Labour's recent troubles, a pattern emerges. From questionable funding to policy flip-flops, the opposition party seems to be stumbling from one crisis to another. Are we witnessing the unraveling of a political powerhouse? Let's find out. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. The Durham beer incident that once seemed like a minor blip on Keir Starmer's political radar has now resurfaced with a vengeance. What initially appeared to be a harmless work break during lockdown has morphed into a potential career-ending scandal for the Labour leader. The scene, April 2021, an MP's office in Durham.
Of trade unionists, lawyers, you know, life career politicians, no one's actually ever run a business. So why should we believe them when they say, oh, everything's fine, rather than talking to bosses and employers who are saying, ow, everything's hurting.
A new set of deflections and distortions pour from the other. But the damage is already done. The public have made up their mind.
And then when you're at peak exhaustion, they put you straight into the Treasury or straight into Treasury. You don't get, you know, whereas Trump's clearly spent the last 3 months on this transition period.
They don't believe a word the Prime Minister says. They know what he is. As ever with this Prime Minister, those close to him find themselves ruined.
And Starmer sipping a beer with colleagues. At the time, it seemed innocuous enough, but as we've learned in politics, appearances can be deceiving. Durham Police's initial decision to let the matter slide raised few eyebrows. After all, they concluded it was a work event, and surely the leader of the opposition wouldn't flout the very rules he criticized others for breaking. But now, with new significant information coming to light, the investigation has been reopened, and Starmer's defense is starting to look as flat as day-old beer. The timing of this reinvestigation is curious, to say the least. Coming hot on the heels of local elections, it's hard not to wonder if there's more at play than just newfound evidence. Conservative MPs, sensing blood in the water, are circling like sharks. They're demanding answers, calling for resignations, and generally doing what opposition parties do best, making life difficult for their rivals. But let's not forget the irony here. Starmer, who built much of his recent political capital on criticizing Boris Johnson's Partygate shenanigans, now finds himself in an eerily similar predicament. The man who once stood on his moral high ground, demanding Johnson's resignation, is now scrambling to explain why his own actions were different. It's a political tightrope act that would make even the most seasoned circus performer nervous. As Durham police close in, the cracks in Labour's leadership are starting to show. Starmer's insistence that it was just a work event is beginning to sound like a broken record. The public, already weary of political doublespeak, is growing increasingly skeptical. After all, how many work events involve beer and curry when the rest of the country is under strict lockdown? Now is whether Starmer will face the same fate as Johnson over Partygate. Will he be forced to resign if found guilty of breaching lockdown rules?
That's what Labour, the problem that Labour had was that they were sort of slightly haunted by their last time in power and the sort of 70s and their reputation as, you know, lefties, which, you know, kind of some of them are.
And the institutions he vows to protect damaged. Good ministers forced to walk away from public service.
That actually, everything they've done actually has been quite pro, you know, sort of really high finance. And actually, they've shoveled the burden onto people that make things and employ people and smaller businesses.
This isn't some fixable glitch in the system. It's the whole point. It's what he does.
Or will he weather this storm, emerging battered but still standing? The coming weeks will be crucial for Starmer and the Labour Party as a whole. Just when we thought Keir Starmer's political woes couldn't get any more complicated, another layer of intrigue has been added to the mix. While the Durham beer saga continues to brew, a new financial controversy has bubbled to the surface, threatening to leave Labour with a bitter aftertaste. The Electoral Commission has raised eyebrows over a potential regulatory concern involving the Labour Party and EU cash. It's a plot twist that adds an unexpected dimension to Starmer's already precarious position. The Fabian Society, a think tank with deep ties to Labour, received funding from an EU foundation. On the surface, this might seem like a routine transaction, but dig a little deeper and the waters become murkier. The EU's Authority for European Political Parties and European Political Foundations slapped a £30,000 fine on the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, FEPS, for indirectly funding the UK Labour Party. This fine has set off alarm bells across the political spectrum. Conservative co-chairman Nigel Huddleston didn't mince words, calling the situation simply scandalous. His reaction underscores the potential gravity of this financial faux pas for Labour. But what exactly happened? The Fabian Society, which proudly proclaims its affiliation with Labour on its website, received funds from FEPS to organize a conference and book launch in January 2023. This event was attended by several Labour politicians, including some heavy hitters. The problem: EU rules strictly prohibit political foundations from donating to any party's electioneering funds. The fine suggests that the EU authorities viewed this funding as an indirect way of supporting Labour.
You say something in opposition, you can chuck rocks, you can be a bit more forthright. Look at Nigel Farage. You know, look at the way Kemi Bednack now and what the Tories are saying. When they were in government, they were saying almost the opposite.
He drags everyone else down with him. The more people debase themselves parroting his absurd defences.
The problem I think that Reeves and co didn't really realise to begin with, actually, you can move markets and you can move confidence and you can move trust very, very, very quickly when you are the government.
The more the public will believe all politicians are the same, all as bad as each other, and that suits this Prime Minister just fine.
Clear violation of the rules. FEPS, for its part, has defended its actions. A spokesperson argued that as a political foundation, it can't be expected to be completely apolitical. They stated, "It is certainly within the remit of FEPS's mission to provide advice, guidance, and input for social democratic policymakers and organizations." This defense, however, may not be enough to quell the growing storm. The Fabian Society's close ties to Labour leadership, including Starmer himself, make this situation particularly thorny. The Society boasts on its website that every Labour Prime Minister has been a Fabian, and today hundreds of Labour politicians are members of the Society, including Labour leader Keir Starmer MP. This close relationship raises questions about whether Labour was aware of the potential issues with this funding arrangement. As the Electoral Commission reviews the matter, Labour finds itself under intense scrutiny. The party that has been vocal about financial transparency and adherence to rules now faces accusations of its own impropriety. This controversy couldn't come at a worse time for Starmer, who is already navigating the choppy waters of the Durham investigation. As the storm clouds gather over Labour's leadership, Keir Starmer finds himself at a crossroads. The Durham beer incident, once a minor footnote, has now ballooned into a potential career ender. Add to that the EU funding controversy, and Labour's house of cards looks increasingly shaky. With Starmer's unpopularity at a 3-year high, the party faces an uphill battle to regain public trust. The coming weeks will be crucial. Will Starmer weather this storm, or will he follow in Boris Johnson's Partygate footsteps? As investigations unfold and the public watches with bated breath, one thing is clear: Labour's troubles are far from over. The British political landscape is in for a shakeup, and the outcome could reshape the future of the opposition for years to come.